The idea of being able to get high quality verified data to be used for marketing purposes is super important. Not only just from the audience perspective to make sure you're targeting the right audiences, but also from a media quality perspective. Are you measuring the right signals? And that's why tying it to outcomes is, to me, the holy grail. If you're an advertiser, you want to know what impact it's going to have.
Welcome to the Marketing Report, a podcast created for and by marketing professionals who seek to better understand their consumers and design unique, personalized experiences that stand out in today's market. In each episode, hosts from Verisk Marketing Solutions connect you to industry thought leaders, practitioners, and experts focused on improving B2C experiences through powerful data-driven insights. It's about how we connect with our consumers and where we can partner together to do it better. This is the Marketing Report.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Report. I'm Tim Finnegan, and I head up product marketing at Verisk Marketing Solutions, which is a business unit of Verisk, and we specialize in consumer data and insights solutions for marketers. And recently we had a guest, John Watts, who heads up the Coalition for Innovative Media Measurement, come on, and he shared his insights on the challenges and advancements in media metrics and the critical role of identity resolution and effective advertising. We also had a chance to talk about media consumption and how it continues to evolve and the demand for innovative measurement techniques that can hopefully accurately reflect user engagement across increasing number of platforms. With that being said, that's why I invited Harmon Lyons to join the podcast today, because he has some great stories and information about interesting and innovative ways to measure audience interactions. Welcome to the podcast, Harmon.
Thank you. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
So, Harmon, you've sort of had an interesting career starting at Microsoft, going over to EA, taking a pit stop at TransUnion, where we both worked together. And now you're at Adelaide, where it seems like your career is really focused around media, advertising, measurement, but also like how to take those products and solutions to market. So I just want you to share sort of like what you're currently doing at Adelaide and sort of maybe touch on some your career path and how it's all led to sort of this new innovative media measurement.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting to be here. I'll touch on the career path piece because it ties in nicely on the arc. I've played roles in the publisher side, starting building the industry, starting back in 97 in digital media. Spent 11 years in Microsoft. I've spent time at Omnicom at the holding company. So I've been on the buy side, been on the sell side, and I had a past in measurement as well with one of maybe a competitor, but viewability, brand safety focused. Spent several years there building an industry, and then hopped over to TransUnion, moved from media quality to data quality. And here at Adelaide, I'm back on the media quality side. So, there's a next wave coming in terms of how we measure media quality for the industry. And I thought there was just a great opportunity now to kind of hop back in and, really take it to the next level as we move forward and look at, come up with the common score for the quality of the media placements, leveraging attention and outcomes and, again, kind of the next level of, where it's been.
So, Harmon, when I think of media measurement, I go right to Nielsen and ComScore, but you're totally different than that. Just help me
Yeah,
understand the
in
sort of the
fact,
differences.
we're complementary to that. So you think Nielsen, you think ComScore, you think audiences, and so they're measuring the audience, who's watching, who's looking at the content. We're measuring the actual media itself, the quality of the placement. So if you think about that ad, if it's a website, a large ad in the middle of the page. If you're thinking about CTV, when is it running? What's the context around it? When you think about linear TV and day parts and things of that nature, it's where is that ad, the size of the ad, the type of ad, those sorts of metrics, as well as what we're looking at is the attention. How much time do people pay attention to this? And we license a lot of data, eye tracking data as well to, calculate that attention and then measure that on how effective those units are at driving outcomes. So to Nielsen and ComScore, they're looking at the audience. We're looking at the actual media placement.
So I recently read an article about your relationship with New York Times and how they're interested in using signals like eye tracking and exposure data to gauge whether the people are paying attention to the ads. And I think that's just so interesting. Like
Yeah.
we were talking about before, is like gone. It seems like gone are the days of click through rates and Google Analytics and things like that, where it's actually it seems like we can now get to the point where we can say, no, we know exactly how many people are paying attention to that specific ad and what that audience looks like. Am I thinking of it the right way?
You're thinking of it the right way. So we can give a score to that placement. And that's really what the New York Times was talking about is what's the quality impact of that placement itself. And our score is derived by outcomes. So it's working with our partners and understanding what outcomes are, whether it's brand lift, whether it's conversion, and mixing that into kind of the algorithm and the machine learning that generates a score. And so understanding how that placement is going to be effective for the advertiser is super important. And from a publisher perspective, to be able to sell based off of that and to say, hey, this placement, is known to drive outcomes. It has a rating of X in order to do that. And think of AU, which is our score for the placement. Think of that like a credit score and a worthiness score of, transacting off of.
I, you took me in a different direction because you told me to think about my credit score, and I was just thinking about how poor it is, and I'm like, I need to improve that thing.
Publishers should be thinking the same. It's, how do we improve those placement scores?
And I got to imagine someone like the New York Times, a big publisher like that, and they're trying to monetize their advertising and prove that, how much time is spent. Are third-party cookies is it taking the place of that, or is it sort of like what's the relationship there with now this audience tracker versus third-party cookies?
Yeah, I think again, like we're talking about a placement level. We're not talking about the audience in particular. So, third party cookies going away means you need other signals to help rate the quality, but not based on the audience. So for us, the cookies going away or staying really is irrelevant because we're looking at the placement itself and if not of the person. That's where a partnership with an audience measurement company like a Nielsen or ComScore, where now you could start talking about attentive reach and how many people are you getting, how many audiences are paying attention, things like that. That's where a combination of those two really make a ton of sense. For us, the deprecation of the cookie is not really the impact that we're trying to have.
So, Harmon, Veris Marketing Solutions, consumer data, consumer insights, we're always thinking about data. So, can you touch on like good quality data?
Yeah.
Does that make a difference for audience creation and what you're doing? Because I know it did. Like when you were at TransUnion, it was like, hey, we're measuring good quality data. How does data fit in here?
Yeah, I mean, data in general, like if you want to talk about quality or not quality data, it's super important to have high quality data. It's one of the reasons why, I went and joined TransUnion because I saw a deficit in the data quality that was being used for marketing purposes. So the idea of being able to get high quality verified data to be used for marketing purposes is super important, not only just from the audience perspective to make sure you're targeting the right audiences, but also from a media quality perspective. Are you measuring the right signals? And that's why tying it to outcomes is, to me, the holy grail. If you're an advertiser, you want to know what impact it's going to have. And being able to show that impact, that buying high quality media, that that's being calculated by using high quality data is driving the most effective outcomes for you. So for me, it's all across the board. Any sort of data, if you're a marketer, if you're a publisher, ensuring that you have the highest quality data and data partners is a key to success.
Right. And Armin, the way I think of it as you're saying it too, is specifically is like how quality data just informs a ton of things. And now in this case, it informs the audience and
Yeah.
know what you're, actually showing them, and it's going to be more effective. Do you happen to have maybe like an example? Like I think maybe we had talked about a financial services example that you
Yeah,
guys have.
I mean, in general, if you think, if we talk data, it's a garbage in, garbage out type mentality. Like if you're throwing bad data at something, you're not going to get the results that you want. And so we're really looking at, partners of, driving those successful outcomes. And I think we were talking about the insurance space in
Yeah.
particular. And I know Verisk, has a big focus on insurance. I ran the insurance vertical at Microsoft. We had a big role at TransUnion. So, if you think about insurance overall and how do you get conversions, and how are you driving quotes, it's you have to have the right audience, they have to have the right makeup. All of that data quality is super important. Where you're targeting them, the content, the placements, all of those things matter. And then ultimately the creative. We used a stool analogy before, but it's almost a chair. You need the content and the creative as well, but that's the data in. So you think about high quality audience data, behavioral data, making sure that's real. Then it's, are you buying the right media quality? Are you buying the right placements that are going to have an impact, that are going to drive an outcome? Are you doing that in a relevant way, like from a context perspective? And does the creative, resonate with that audience? So, I think about all of those things require high quality data and inputs to make sure you're driving the right message at the right time, at the right place or placement to get your most effective outcome.
And that Harmon, I love you saying that. It's like I think of that as the holy grail of marketing. It's like exactly what you said: right message at the right place to the right people, the right channel. Now you can, with audience segmentation and paying attention, or what people are paying attention to, you actually have data to back that up. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Harmon, when you've gone to these different places, and I know you're a big fan of marketing and go to market, like what are some things you've learned along the way when you go to either a new organization or you've got a new product? What are some tips that you can tell other marketers, like, hey, be thinking about this, or
Yeah.
these types of trends or challenges are common.
Yeah, for me, it's looking at what's ahead. And that's what really attracted me to Adelaide is there's a product market fit. That was super important. It's proven, it drives results. We hear about it from our customers, and you're hearing about it in the press from the publishers. Like it's the next narrative, and it's really moving forward. So, yeah, that is super important. And for me, it's about listening. Like it really comes down to hearing what people are saying, not just in the company itself and how it's being positioned, but in the industry more broadly. And I've really been focused on, how do we help the industry improve and move forward? And that's why, the quality conversation's always been so important to me, whether it's media quality or data quality. It helps marketers, do their jobs better and be more effective and spend money more wisely, and all of those things are super important. And there's a finite amount of resources, and those resources ebb and flow depending on broader macroeconomic conditions or even internal conditions. And it's about using those resources to the best of your abilities. And to me, it's picking the right partners, picking the right companies, picking the right data sets, and then driving the right outcomes.
So Harmon, back to what you said about what you're paying attention to and listening. what are you hearing out in the industry from leaders right now? What are they paying attention to? Like that, not only in measurement, but
Yeah.
as far as marketing and data.
Yeah, there's a couple, big things obviously that are happening, and we hear about it around cookie deprecation, and audience is a really big topic, and that's constantly changing. When Google's gonna pull the plug, if they are, when they are. Privacy is obviously a really big topic still, as it should be, and ensuring that what you're doing is operating in a privacy compliant way. And then I think media quality, or I believe media quality, is another big topic. Like, attention has just gotten a ton of buzz. It's really the next opportunity to raise the bar in terms of how media buyers are executing their plans, and allowing them to get the most bang for the buck at the end of the day. So using more data, using better data, calculating those outcomes have become a really big topic in the industry.
And Harmon, just a little more on the role of data and how you measure, or how consumer insights is measured. Like, what's the next step after you measure
Yep.
audiences? Like, walk me through that. Like, I'm so interested, like how you present that to your customers or prospects of, great, that we've got this audience measurement, but what are what is the final product that you're showing to
Yeah,
your
and
customers?
so it's not the audience measurement piece; it's the media quality measurement piece. So it, from an audience perspective, work with your audience partners, understand the audience that you're targeting. Obviously, you can use first party data. You can, work with companies like yourself to build those right audiences from a targeting perspective. For us, it's you bring that audience, and then we go and measure your campaign. We look at all the ad placements that you run, and we can provide you back the scores of all of those ad placements, and the quality of those placements. And then we make recommendations on how to improve that, how to drive better outcomes. And we do that via, measuring any type of outcome our customer is looking for. So whether that's a brand lift perspective, whether that's a sales perspective, we build those into our studies, show how using high AU media placements drive better results. And then it's how do you activate off of that information? So high AU PMPs, pre-bid targeting segments, things like that, where you can now activate off that data to ensure that you're buying the highest quality media for your campaigns.
It's so interesting, Harmon. I love this thing. So when I mentioned working, or I talked to John Watts from Sim, and he had talked about some of the innovative things that they have their eye on, which are like, okay, how do we measure media that we don't even know about, or that's just sort of beginning, like the gamification and different things than just media? Is there anything that's innovative that you're like, oh, we better keep our eye on that because it looks like the industry may be going that way? Or is it still too early to tell?
No, I mean, I think the industry is always evolving in terms of kind of media placements and where they're going. We're looking at everything from digital out of home to audio to CTV to linear, social, across the board. So we're really helping marketers understand what are those placements that are going to drive the most effective outcomes for them. And then, you almost think of it in a vein of a media mix model, where you're going, where should I spend my next, $1 million? And understanding where to put that. Well, that attention metric, that media quality metric is going to be able to help decide that and then activate off of that.
So when I look at the Lumascape, that famous marketing
Yep.
Lumascape with thousands of providers in there, how do you guys like sort of get out of all the noise and really get through the value proposition of what you're trying to do, that you're not lost in it? Is it one-to-one contact with businesses? Are you partnering with agencies? Are you going to
Yep.
events? Like, how are you getting the word out?
Yeah, and it's one of the things that attracted me to Adelaide is the word was out. So what was great is I started my first day was at Possible or down in Miami, and when I got a chance to say, "Hey, this is," I joined Adelaide, everyone's like, "Oh, such a buzz around those guys." So it's, kudos to the company prior to me joining, done a great job building a brand. And we're doing that by showing up to places, building case studies, getting in front of the agencies, working with the partners, working with the DSPs and SSPs. It's we're trying to be everywhere. We're still startup, we're small, so using our resources effectively, but we've done a great job on kind of the PR and marketing side, and that's because the metric works. So we're seeing the results, and then the publishers talk about it, and then the advertisers talk about it, and they bring that up inside of the holding companies. So for us, it's great that we have a product that can actually deliver. That's super important. But we've been very good at kind of getting the PR game and getting our name out there as well, and participating in the industry as a whole, to bring it to the next level.
So you talked about brand lift earlier, Harmon.
Yeah.
Is did you contribute to the brand lift since you started, or has it gone the other way?
I mean, I would hope so, but I don't know if we'll have to ask Caitlin if we're running our own studies to see if that helped or not. But I certainly hope my presence here allows us to, break into some more opportunities and drive the business forward.
So, Harmon, as we wrap this up, we've talked a lot about audiences and measurement and a little bit about data quality. I just wanted to get your point of view about identity resolution. It's one of those data foundational things, but I think businesses can still struggle with it. You've been at places like TransUnion and you've been at Microsoft and other places along the way. How is identity resolution and data feeding sort of the other end of the measurement industry?
I mean, identity resolution is critical. It's kind of that, high quality data, the importance of it, and being able to actually know who you're targeting. It's just a critical component, and kind of that first leg that we were talking about. Do I have the right audience? In the cookie world, you didn't really know. Like it was a bunch of estimates. In the identity resolution and using first party data and matching that up, you have a really, really good sense of, who you're targeting, and if that data is quality or not, based on the partner that you're choosing to work with, like a Verisk. So, identity resolution, audience targeting, you know, th- that's the first thing I think marketers think about. Am I getting the right audience? Then am I targeting the right media quality? Then do I have the right placements? Okay, now that I have the right placements, is it in the right context, and do I have the right creative? Like, it goes back to that thought process. But identity resolutions, that first thing to know that you're targeting the right people, and so working with the right organizations to make that happen is super important.
So, Harmon, if you could go back to your younger self when you were on the agency side, would you have any idea that all this stuff was in front of you with what you're doing currently right now? It seems like a stretch to think that.
It's not so far fetched. So interestingly, my college project was on the future of internet advertising before there was internet advertising. So it was, for me, I kind of saw a future, not so much the details of what identity resolution was going to be, or, if attention was going to be the metric, but the idea that this medium that was going to become addressable, that, consumers were going to choose their own content. It wasn't going to be programmed for them anymore. That we were going to be able to have, an advertising medium that really had more of a one-to-one conversation, was actually something I was talking about in kind of the mid 90s. And it's why I ended up here. I started off, I wanted to be an investment banker. I was a finance major. That was the route I was going down, and kind of caught the internet bug at the University of Illinois. That's where Mark Andreessen invented Netscape. And so there's just kind of noise there of what's going on, and I kind of jumped on it and wanted to see what was going to happen. And fortunately for me, it's led to a great career.
Harmon, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge, not only what you're doing at Adelaide, but in your career. So thanks for being one of my favorite guests on the Marketing Report podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was terrific. Looking forward to working with you guys in the future.
Okay. Thanks, Harmon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Marketing Report. This show is brought to you by Verisk Marketing Solutions, an organization created to help CMOs and their partners improve the reach, timing, relevance, and compliance of every consumer engagement. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the Marketing Report wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the show notes for more information.